to the new open. I almost completely botched it. We're starting the show. Kristen and Dame and I are just gathering kind of late. And hi, people. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Pete.
10. Hi, Dame.
Yeah, I have to admit, the first time I watched that new intro, I thought you live said Kristen, Dame. It's part of the recording, isn't it?
It is a little bit of editing. Guys, I kind of surprised the masses in the last couple of weeks with Story Time with Pete in the podcast feed. Look, with our new association with the IBJ Media Podcast Network, also known as the IBJP MP. So I'm trying some new things. And one of those things are a short form podcast that I put on the feed on Tuesdays. All right. So on Tuesdays, I will put a 4 to 5 minute podcast up, and it's Story Time with Pete. It's me bloviating about something that occurs to me about our economy or the markets. And my goal, Dame, and sometimes I'm good at this and sometimes I'm not. My goal, because a lot of them are involve socioeconomics or political situations, is to present both sides and let everyone get mad. That's my goal.
Yeah.
Right? As opposed to like this past week, it was the death of the CFPB. And instead of saying why that's terrible, I presented why it's good and why it's bad, and then just let everyone be pissed off. That's the goal there. And it's not to be a provocateur. It's more of like the news I like to read presents both sides of it. And so like, if I'm going to create some media, let's present both sides of it. It seems like a reasonable thing to do, no?
Yeah, so you're just getting everybody angry with each other, and you're just help perpetuating the cycle.
Yes, that's great. Kristen, I got to see you in person this week. Quite the pleasure for me.
No, that's so kind. I enjoyed it as well.
I was in Florida early part of the week and the weekend, and yet Kristen looks tan. So I don't know how this works. Dame, you and I have a similar skin tone, and follically we're similar. Dame, I burnt my chin and my chin alone in Florida. Sunburned my chin. Actually, the soul patch area, if you want to get technical. That's it. That's all it burned, and it hurt so bad I wanted to die.
I'm guessing you must have had like a bucket hat type on, so a lot of shade around most of the face, but one little area was uncovered.
Oddly, no, but I am a big bucket hat energy sort of guy. Jeremiah, a longtime listener of the show, and I just say that to really stoke my ego, the boss hog of liberty, as some call him, says that recently I've said I don't want to talk about eggs on this show, and then I put out an egg podcast during Storytime with Pete. Kristen?
Yeah, in fact, I think your words were, I'm tired of talking about eggs.
I do feel like the egg podcast, though, was telling everyone, calm down. It was just like, it's $11 difference. You're going to be fine. Just have one less topping on your pizza. Kristen, you got a little bit of a headache today, Queen?
A skosh, yes.
From Tequila?
No, 75 hard.
So is that in today?
No.
How long do you use 75 hard?
Is that a joke?
No, how long do you use 75 hard?
For 75 days.
Oh, that's the 75.
Yeah.
I thought it was like try to lose 75 pounds.
Yeah. That was...
Well, now that's gotten offensive, and I didn't mean it that way, but I don't know what the 75 is.
It's days. That's the whole point.
Oh, Lord. So, Dame, what are you doing this week? Anything good?
No, nothing. They're boring. Cleaning up random fluid spills in my driveway and barn and stuff like that.
Can I tell you an uncomfortable reality of my weekend?
Yes.
So here's a more comfortable reality. I'm driving to Chicago tonight, so then I can drive to Milwaukee tomorrow for a soccer game. Like, whatever. Yeah. You may say that's ridiculous. It's just my life at this point, so I don't really care. Then I'm driving back tomorrow night all the way home because I'm emceeing a very big charity event on Sunday morning in Indianapolis. And it's a brunch, like a charity brunch. A lot of people. And so here's the thing. There's some certain very large company CEOs that are in that room every year, and they don't think I'm entertaining. So picture this. And now that we're on the IBG Podcast Media Network, people can just try to guess who this is, and it's uncomfortable. But it's nothing wrong with this person. It's just that this is literally, and you guys are going to have to use your imagination, Chris and Dame, is literally one of the most powerful CEOs in the world right now at a company in Indianapolis.
Okay.
So you're pretty close to where you think you're going to go?
I think so.
Okay. This person sits at the front table because obvi, right? Like, where are they going to put him in the back? And I'm on stage, and I'm there talking about a medical thing that we're trying to raise money for.
Mm-hmm.
Not the best topic in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So you try to loosen people up. And so I'm doing little bits and gags, and people are going. The more people laugh, you've seen me, the more I get going. The more I get going, the more they get going. It's just this beautiful thing. But if your tastes are not so much one that enjoys Peter, you know what I mean? Then it's annoying.
Yeah.
And I think he hates me.
Any chance you could slide a couple mimosas to him and maybe help the situation out a little bit?
Can I ask another sort of question that's uncomfortable? Kristen,
Yes.
I'm going to ask you. You're the most influential person on this show.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to see the mayor on Sunday morning.
Mm-hmm.
And we are friendly. I don't want to be the person who's like, he's a friend of mine, because that doesn't matter. We know each other well and whatever. And I want to know a lot about the city's attempt to get a Major League Soccer team in Indianapolis. Like, and he's obviously really involved, obviously. How uncool is it for me to like ask him pointed questions about that? You know, like, because he's a friend, so I don't want to be like, hey, tell me non-public information. And I'm not going to come on the radio and talk about it, I don't think. But like, what is it uncool to do that to a person?
It is the most uncool.
Yeah, I think so too. Dame, do you think it's uncool to do that?
I think I disagree.
It's the setting. That's not what you're there for. You're there for the charity.
Okay, that might have some influence on it, but I think there's some Indiana politicians that are in Indianapolis, not federal, but in Indiana that I talk to, and I ask them questions about what's going on.
Well, here's how I'm thinking about doing it. All right, I'm going to test this out. Kristen, you're the mayor.
Okay.
Hey, mayor.
I don't make enough money.
Okay. Wow. Joke of the day.
Yeah.
Joke of the day. I'm clipping that up, putting it on the socials. All right.
Boy.
Mayor, you know I would never put you in an uncomfortable position and ask you a question that makes you feel weird.
I really doubt that.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But if you were to offer me some guidance on what's happened with the MLS team coming in that wouldn't make you feel uncomfortable, but it makes me feel a little bit special by knowing it, what would that piece of information be?
You know, that actually wasn't the worst setup, to be honest with you.
That's what I'm going to go with.
I
Because I want to know.
don't think that was that bad.
Dame?
Are you going to do it before your set, you're on stage and getting everybody in a good mood, or are you going to do it after?
Well, do you want the real answer, or do you want the answer that I'm proud of?
I'm proud of.
Well, then I can't give you the real answer. The real answer, the proud answer is I'll figure it out. The real answer is there's sort of an area where people who can gather and talk, and I would ask him that. But then this is where we are. This awkward moment is why I didn't. Okay. Rochelle says stop by Lakefront Brewery in Milwaukee. Kristen, the most famous bronze statue in Milwaukee is...
I have no idea.
Dame, the most famous bronze statue in downtown Milwaukee is...
It has to be the one of Robin Yount.
That's a really good guess. It's so obscure that Kristen's face just exploded. Arthur Fonzarelli, Henry Winkler,
Really?
the Bronze Fonz.
I didn't know that.
Kristen, you ever seen Happy Days?
I don't think I've ever actually seen it, but I know who Fonzie is.
Okay, so there's a statue of the Fonz, and it's like 5'7". I've stood next to it before, and he's going, "Hey."
Yeah.
And it's I mean, if you're on it's like a little, maybe a canal or something, or a river. No one knows the waterways of Milwaukee. Anyway, it's kind of cool. It's kind of like, I mean, the Carmel statues is just like a lady carrying groceries that looks like she's going to kill your family. But at least the Fonz statue is culturally appropriate, you know?
Mrs. Advice knows the waterways of Milwaukee. She's rode on them.
Should we start the show?
Probably.
Kristen's like, get me out of this. I got to get back to 75 hard. I worked out this morning, so I've got oodles of energy.
Happy for you.
I feel like I'm strong. Yeah, we'll talk about that during the break.
Okay.
In 3, 2, 1. This week on the Pete the Planner Show, we answer your money questions. Here's how the show works. You email us, askpete@petetheplanner.com. That's askpete@petetheplanner.com, and we'll read your question on the air, maybe, and answer it, maybe. I said we, which involves mi hombres. Kristen Elanius, I'm working on my Spanish. Kristen Elanius and Damian Dunn. Kristen, hello.
Hola.
Dame.
Good day.
Good day. I never explained this to the radio audience, but radio friends, this show is actually a show within a show within a show. We live stream this show that you're listening to recorded now on the weekends on a radio station on Friday mornings at 10 a.m. on YouTube/Pete the Planner. YouTube.com/Pete the Planner. Then we serve this radio show to you, and then there's actually a podcast of the whole thing where we talk between the segments. You can download that at wherever you get your podcasts if you've heard of podcasts. Dame, I got an interesting email this week about prosperity in America.
Oh.
Makes me feel like those gold commercials that are on during Fox News. Like it's like Tom Selleck. Dame and I can name all sorts of old actors that do these commercials. Kristen, you are a young. When you think of it, oh, Dame, this is going to be great. Oh, Kristen, I'm not trying to trick you. I'm just like, I want you to think of an old actors who would do commercials that have gravitas to them. And again, old to you is different than old to Dame and I. Like Dame and I are old to you.
Right.
However, there's older guys that are old to Dame and I. Who would you choose to do gold commercials on Fox News that is an old guy actor that has gravitas?
I would want it to be Tom Selleck.
Okay, so we're aligned.
Yeah.
I can't believe you know who Tom Selleck is, if I'm being honest.
I watched Friends.
Oh, yeah. Dear Pete, love the show. I've heard people say that the 50s and 60s were the best time to be financially stable in America. But was that really the golden age of wealth? What made that period so prosperous, and could we ever get back to something like it? I'd love to hear your take. This question is important to me, and I'd just love to know. Okay. Well, first of all, I don't know why that question is important to the person, but whatever. We'll do our best. Maybe I'll start here. Kristen, when you think about the 50s and 60s, a period that you weren't anywhere close to, but you think back, you took a history class, I'm sure. Do you think of the 50s and 60s as economically prosperous?
The first thought that comes to my mind is quite loaded, gentlemen.
Oh, Lord. We're going to get lit up here.
I mean, perhaps more for certain groups of people than others. I don't think it was prosperous for everyone. And I think that prosperity looks different because when I think about like the 50s and 60s, I think about the fact that I would maybe have to or I would be more likely to be a housewife, like hand washing my dishes. And I'm not really about that. So I don't know. I feel like that's hard for me.
Dame, it's in this moment. I'm always thankful for Kristen on this show, but it's in this moment that I'm thinking, thank God it's not 3 middle-aged white guys having this discussion because it's funny, Kristen, when I think of the 50s and 60s, I think of the civil rights movement. Like that is the first thing that comes to mind. But when you think about economic prosperity, that extends to gender in the 50s and 60s as well. That's so interesting. Dame, 50s and 60s where does your mind go in terms of the financial stability of people then?
You think about the post-World War II and everybody coming home and there being a robust economy happening where you could comfortably live in a reasonably sized house on one income and have I'll go ahead and say it, the wife is going to stay at home. There's not so much a splitting of a your role in that case. There were, I would hazard to guess, very, very few stay-at-home husbands during that time period. But it was, you think of, Leave It to Beaver, shows like that, where it just kind of modeled the typical American experience for a great number, not everybody, but a great number of people. And it was just a comfortable time of living for a lot of folks, I think.
Kristen, we're going to exclude you from this part of the conversation because there's no way you've seen Leave It to Beaver reruns.
No.
Dame, my dad grew up on Leave It to Beaver. Yeah. And then when the reruns came on TV and I loved them, it like made him feel good that it still worked. For me. Did you watch Leave It to Beaver?
Leave It to Beaver, Andy Griffith. Were there any other black and white? Those are probably the two. And then, of course, if you could get into some of the Westerns if you wanted to. And then the Brady Bunch was the big progressive show eventually. But
so, Chris, do you want to, by the way, Kristen, sometimes I call her Chris and it annoys her, but she has a headache today. So I probably should call her Kristen out of respect.
Thank you.
Kristen, by the way, I'm sorry. Kristen, would you rather to understand this, I think we need to talk about the factors we are going to use on this show to evaluate whether a period in American history was good and or bad. Do you want to take us through these factors or some of these factors? And maybe Dame and I can fill in the blanks.
Yeah. So do you want to go through all of those first and then we'll go through time periods?
Yeah, let's do factors first. And maybe it takes us the rest of this segment. And then we'll get to the good time periods, the bad time periods. And then even today on the show, Dame, we're going to get to what's today look like. Are we trending more towards good or bad? And we'll even let everyone blame their favorite or least favorite politician for where we are, which is whatever. Blame them all. Who cares? All right. So Kristen, walk us through the factors that we think makes for the ability to be prosperous.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually going to take these backwards. So we're going to start with the cost of college education.
Yeah. See, Dame, sometimes we take for granted that people used to just like stroke a check easily out of their pocketbook savings for college education. Today, you're borrowing against your house, your 401k, government loan programs are involved. Very different times. So we're trying our best to say, look, if you're going to have an educated workforce in which a person can go out and earn a living, we got to look at apples to apples and see the cost of education. So that makes sense, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Chris, what's next? Kristen, what's next?
Interest rates, the average interest rate.
Yeah. I heard one the other day. I can't. There's no way this person listened to the show. I mean, every time I think of them, I'm like, okay, am I gonna anger somebody here? Probably. Someone was telling me that they made a investment choice last year that was controversial at best. It was just dumb. And they're like, well, the banks weren't paying anything. The banks were paying 5.5% last year. And yet they still went with the banks aren't paying anything. And so, Dame, interest rates matter not only for borrowing, but for what people feel like they can get out of the banks that serve them. So I always think that's an interesting barometer both ways.
Sure. Yeah, it's very reasonable. Your local bank may not be giving you anything, but there are banks out there through CDs or high yield savings accounts that you still can get a fairly reasonable interest rate.
Kristen, with a minute or so left, let's rip through some here. We'll quick comment and you hit them.
Cost of healthcare, which is, of course, inflation adjusted. These mostly are corporate profits versus worker wages, which is quite interesting. Income inequality, savings rates, stock market performance, the median price for homes, so home affordability, inflation, median household income, the unemployment rate, and GDP growth rate.
Dave, do you think, how many factors is that? That is 12 factors. It feels comprehensive.
Feels like a pretty good sample.
Like, yeah, we're just trying to say like the average Joe or Jill. Why did I just hit Joe and Jill? I was talking about the Bidens all the time. Anyway, the average Joe or the average Jill, could they have a great financial life? That's what we're trying to figure out. The emailer said, is it in the 50s and 60s? Well, when you come back, we're going to tell you what the period actually is. The best in American history and the worst. That's next on the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner. You guys, this show might just come together. Boy, friends, do I have a story for you off the air.
No.
Oh, boy. It's going to blow your mind. I did something using technology yesterday. Took me 2 hours to do something and then 4 minutes of post. In normal life, it would have taken me 2 hours to do something and quite literally 40 to 60 hours to do the rest, at least. So I'll share that with you off there. You guys, it is February 28, the end of the month, and we all made commitments to each other about low by February, and I want to check in with mon frères. I don't know if that's correct. I don't speak French, but I'm decent at high school Spanish. Kristen, you committed to spending 100 American dollars, no more,
right,
at a grocery store to buy food. Now, Dame and I both think that it's because you're a prepper and you've got powdered beets in your basement that you're able to get away with this. But how much did you spend at the grocery store in February of 2025?
I did spend a little bit more than 100.
Okay.
I think it was like 120. I would have to add up the exact number. I kind of had a running total in my brain. We were a little over 100, but I feel pretty good about that.
My friends who listen to the show, which is also weird this day, A, I have friends, B, that they listen. Luke and J.O. heard that at the beginning of this month and were like freaking out. They're like, there's no way she can do that. Did your dining out costs go through the roof?
No, they did not. We were very, very responsible with all food spending this month.
Is it helping you guys lose the 75 pounds? Okay. Sorry. You couldn't possibly lose 75 pounds.
Well, thank you for the clarification.
Yeah,
and no, I don't think, well, okay. So I did 75 hard, which is no booze. And then obviously, and that's one of the rules. And then he did half dry January and he lost like 10 pounds, just like kind of doing dry January. And I was like, come on.
Male privilege right there.
Dame, you wanted to reduce your dependence on Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
And not by stopping reading the Washington Post because you weren't a subscriber, although maybe you'll subscribe now. Your Amazon purchases, how did you do in February?
I think the only thing that I bought that wasn't a necessity, and you could argue it might have been, was yeah, you were right, Kristen. You didn't. This isn't a necessity because there were others that I could have used. Was a new pair of shoes. Had the sole of one of my pairs of shoes start falling off. Probably time to replace it at that point. And I abided by my 3-day delay before I bought something.
Oh.
And bought a new pair of shoes.
Dame, I'm going to start my next thought here with I love you very much.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know this.
Yeah.
And you and I are very different people.
Yeah.
Talk to me about buying shoes on Amazon. Like, is it a brand? Are they like a brand you know and trust, and you just happen to know that you can buy them on Amazon?
Yeah. Yeah. It was a pair of shoes, a style of shoes that I've actually owned before. I just have a few different pairs that I kind of rotate on through depending on what I think I'm going to be using them for. And saw this one was on sale for like 30% off. Just happened to be, somebody was closing this one out. And so I was like, I'm going to go ahead and get that one.
Totally done that before, right? There's two paths that could have gone. The way you went, which is the way I've gone, or you're out just shopping for shoes on Amazon and you buy some called like Click Mouse or whatever, where that are like knockoffs and, whatever.
Yeah.
Should
be here next week. I'll let you know how it goes.
Wow, I didn't mean to go with ClickMount. All right, so you did good. You're proud of yourself. What do you give yourself? A to F on your low buy?
I think I got an A. I think I did really, really well.
Chris, what do you give yourself? 10?
I think I got a B. I think I could have done a little bit better.
Mine was to have no food delivery at all in any capacity to my home in February. And I personally didn't, but one night, Mrs. Planner, our young boy, and I were out somewhere, and our daughter was at home, and we didn't really have food for her to make there. We didn't plan ahead, and so we had to order delivered to her. I'll let you guys make the call here. I'm willing to give myself a B for that reason.
I'd go with an A still. It wasn't your doing.
I could have planned ahead. So anyway, all right, let's come back and we will decide on the air as to how we do this, because that's how we do this. In 3, 2, 1, back on the Pete the Planner show. Hope your weekend's going well, heading out to buy mulch and petunias. Is that what people do?
Might be a little early. Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
Because greenhouses aren't even open yet.
Whatever. Okay. Do you guys want to? We're talking about the best and worst economic periods in American history. Kristen, since you don't, you're catching your vibe here today. Do you want it to be the best first or the worst first?
No way. Let's start with the worst so that we can end on a high note, please.
That's fair. I'm going to share 4 bad time frames. Okay? 4 bad time frames. And the first one should not be remotely surprising to anyone, and it's the Great Depression. Dame, when you think about the Great Depression, other than like grandparents' stories of like we drank dirt and things like that, what do you think about when you economically think about the Great Depression?
Man, it's hard to not think about the stories of people. Well, even though you told me not to, but the old newsreel clips that you would see of people standing in line and trying to find jobs and whatever. But just a really, really tough time for general employment and manufacturing in the country as well. And just not a lot going right during that time period.
Yeah, so we looked at various factors. Kristen went through them in the first segment. If you missed it, go to our podcast, The Pete the Planner Show, and you can listen to it. 29% contraction on gross domestic product. 29% contraction during that time frame, in a peak unemployment rate of 25%. 1 in 4 Americans who wanted to work couldn't work. Median household income adjusted, inflation adjusted, $10,000. The inflation rate, and this is where things get nutty, and this is where economics always gets turned on its head. Deflation, hyperdeflation at 25%, negative 25%. Hit a couple notes. Of course, the stock market declined nearly 90%. The average savings rate in America, Kristen, no surprise here, may not making any money. Everything costs a weird amount of money. It was 0, right? Cost of college education, inflation adjusted, was $2,500, and really low interest rates because we were trying to stoke economic activity, and limited access to healthcare. So therefore there was minimal cost. Dame, that's a pretty bad period.
Yeah, there's no real good way to paint rose-colored glasses on it. But even for the folks who were air quote okay during that time period, there was a lot of social pressure to not show it because it was just not polite. You're rubbing it in everybody's face. People who are literally don't know where the next meal's coming from. The last thing you want to do is be seen and out driving around and enjoying yourself.
Sometimes when you hear things that horrific, and I was just reading that, and I was thinking, as I was reading it, I felt really dark. Like that was terrible. And here at Your Moneyline a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about some of the financial hurdles that Black Americans have had to overcome in the last 400 years in our country. And one of those moments we discussed was the fall of Freedmen's Bank, which was a bank that enslaved people first began to save money and assets towards. And when it collapsed because of lots of reasons, Dame, I felt like as we were talking about that here at work a couple weeks ago, it was that same level of darkness of like, hey, everything I know to be true is now untrue and gone. And so even as we're about to now talk COVID-19, for most of us that are listening to this show or participating in this show, that's the closest thing we know to the absolute despair that can come with these sort of economic periods. And Kristen, for us, 3.5% economic contraction. Not that bad, all things considered, right?
Yeah, it's hard though. It's hard because we're not as conditioned to work through those periods. I think as a society, our comfort level is just totally different than what you would have expected from, a century ago. So while that -3.5 doesn't seem that bad on paper, I would argue that it certainly felt way worse than that living it.
Dame, I was thinking the same thing. Like compared to the Great Depression, not that bad, but we lived it and it felt like hell.
It was a challenging time period. I mean, the one thing that we have it sounds so weird, but the one thing that we have in our favor that's
I knew there was
was it was so brief for the overall country. It was I remember I just talked with somebody on the phone about this yesterday, is that stock prices tanked, absolutely tanked, 30% down. Mm-hmm. And as soon as the stimulus hit, rocketed right back up, and actually finished positive for the year on that case. In that case, so if you were able to navigate the job situation that you might have been in, it actually ended up kind of okay by the end of the year.
Yeah, we've talked about it on the show before. From February 19th to March 23rd of 2020, COVID, stock market fell 34%, just straight bear market, and it took 148 days from March 23rd on for it to recover to February 19th levels. And baby, that was not the Great Depression.
No.
So other elements there, unemployment rate averaged about 14.7%. And this is where things get a little weird too, is, household income was $78,000, right? So again, I don't want to say that's not that bad because that's not the point of this discussion. But it does contextualize when you compare that to what was going on in the Great Depression, inflation adjusted. The inflation rate really peaked in 2021, a total inflation rate of 6.2%. But as everyone knows, there were certain items, gas, eggs again. Why are we back to freaking eggs? It was like 11%, right? It was pretty nasty. Median household price of a house, you guys, this is where this goes off the rails. Mm-hmm. $400,000.
Yeah.
That's why I think that period felt so bad, honestly, because as things are getting bad, the obligations we had relative to the Great Depression were so much bigger.
It's absolutely bonkers. It was 5 times your median salary for the average family. So, or for the median family in this case. If we look at other time periods, and I'm sure we will, you're going to see a lot smaller ratio on that side. And I mean, I'd be really interested to see how much of our financial stress is dependent on our housing choices going forward. Yeah, housing is expensive today. I can't debate that, but we do have some agency in what we choose and where we choose to live.
Kristen, I'd be willing to make that argument that Dame just had. Like, I was about to say full stop and then say something else. Full stop. But listen, I would agree with that. It is our current reality that is your biggest expense. It is the biggest multiple to your income ever. So is this entire segment just about housing affordability?
I mean, yes, but also how much of it is like of our own doing when like the type of houses we buy and where we choose to live. Like, yeah, housing's more expensive, but also we're buying a lot of house these days.
There's a couple other elements I want to hit. And clearly we could do 7 hours on this topic because we're barely getting through a single period. Other quick hits. Average education, $35,000 a year compared to $2,500 inflation adjusted of the Great Depression. Mm-hmm. Income inequality, high. $7,000 a year for healthcare expenses, which there was minimal healthcare expenses in the Great Depression. So what we're saying is it was both harder and easier, and it was hard because we knew it. So let's do this. Come back. We're talking about the best periods ever in America on the Pete the Planner show. How in the world are we not getting through all of this material?
It's because what do you tell me? It's because you're yakking.
Yapping.
Yeah.
Yakking is throwing up.
Throwing up, yeah.
Yapping is throwing up words. Chris, how will you make your headache go away?
If it doesn't go away on its own, I will just consume some more caffeine.
And is that break the hard?
No.
You can have caffeine with 75 hard.
Oh, yeah.
So what is it that you're not doing that is giving you a headache?
Oh, I don't think it's because of 75 hard. I just think I have a headache.
Dame, I thought it was presented to me that it was 75 hard.
I will give you a little bit of a pass on that. It did sound like she was trying to. Yeah, I agree.
Oh, that's my bad.
I don't know. Well, that's fun. So, guys, I don't think we can really come back. I mean, we could hit the Great Recession.
You
know what we could do? I just blaze through that right now and then come back on the radio and be like, hey, you got to listen to podcasts if you want
to. Well, I mean, we have enough time to do like 2 good ones, right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Just,
we have 2 good ones.
Skip it in the middle, I guess.
How about we only do it for our Patreon members?
There we go.
Someone was like, you should get Patreon. I'm like, I'm not making people pay for this crap, I mean, entertainment.
No.
Dave, do you notice my new glasses?
Are they tortoiseshell?
Yeah, here, I'm going to walk. You won't be able to hear me. I'm going to walk up to the camera. Okay, so you get, Kristen, you've seen them in person, right?
I have indeed.
Okay, so you can narrate while I walk up to the camera.
I won't be. Jameson, thank you. I knew that I didn't misrepresent myself.
Well, that's a lot of Peter. It is tortoiseshell. It's very tortoiseshell.
Yes, absolutely.
I could almost see leopard in that, though.
Are you saying they look like leopard spots?
I said very, very tortoiseshell, but I could almost see how somebody would think they might be leopardish, especially on the right stem.
Kristen, give your ears a break here for a second. Dame, do you have any white eyebrow hairs?
No, I don't. I mean, I've got obviously gobs down here, but they haven't migrated north yet.
It's not great.
White eyebrow hairs, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I come from a long line of white eyebrowed men. Do you think I go just for men brow?
No, just shave them off.
Kristen,
I was just going to say, do what you did when you were worried about your hair on your head. Just shave.
No, I don't like that solution. Kristen, this is a strange ask. The next time you're at the office, can I have you color my eyebrows?
No, that's a terrible idea.
You get a Sharpie. Just
something tasteful.
Pen them in.
Here's the inequity of it all. Women color their eyebrows all the time.
I don't.
Do they?
Oh, of course they do. I mean, but not with like a box mix, but with makeup, they darken them and tattoo them and all sorts of stuff.
That's fair. Lots of people have microbladed eyebrows.
How many white eyebrows are we talking here? Hairs in your eyebrows? Beyond plucking?
Should I go up to the camera and just show them? No. You're protecting my dignity.
Yes.
If this is your first time joining us, I am.
Oh yeah. Hi.
And if you're
guys, I'll calm it down. Hey everybody. Several, a dozen per eyebrow.
Pluck them out.
I mean, I am, but it's just like, how much time does a guy have? I'm running a company. Oh man, I hope none of my coworkers are watching this. Danza says the current eyebrow trend is not for me. Is that where people look scared and interested? They're like, they got like the W looking thing, upside down V.
Yeah,
I don't know. Jameson says he seems to have one wiry white one in each brow. I pluck it and it grows an inch overnight. We're at that age.
Lovely.
Women don't get white eyebrow hair.
I'm sure they do.
No one knows because they color them. Hey,
White ear hair yet, Pete?
Am I what?
Have white ear hair yet?
That's a good question. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Kristen is not digging this.
Not a great conversation.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner show. During the breaks on this show, we discuss a lot of hard-hitting things, life-changing for some. And if you'd like to tap into those moments, go to our podcast, The Pete the Planner Show, or watch them. Sometimes we do a little show and tell because the video is happening right now, and you can go to youtube.com/PetE the Planner. That's Pete the Planner. All right. So we're talking about the most prosperous periods in the history of the United States of America. So this is post 1776, United States of America. An emailer asked us, the 50s and 60s seem like the best periods in American history. Is that true? Well, yeah, it is kind of. Yeah, there was quite a boom from the 1940s, post-World War II, to the early 1970s. And Dame, on average, do you want to cover the numbers here? Why don't you hit the numbers? Oh, what was going on?
For which era?
Post-World War II boom.
Yeah, so GDP growth of about 4%, unemployment 4 to 5%, so a little bit higher than what we would normally like to see. Median household income $35,000, inflation rate 2 to 3%, right in the sweet spot. Home affordability $110,000. Remember, we just compared that to the COVID-19, where it was 78,000 median income and 400,000.
Yeah. Let's do some math.
The home. So that's like just over 5 for COVID-19.
COVID-19 is just over 5% or 5x.
5 times income.
And it's 3 during that.
World War II is essentially 3 as well. Huge difference.
Yeah, that's it. How is that not it, Kristen?
It's not it because we just put a piece on our website for Your Money Line, or it's about to go up, about how we buy almost 50% more house than we did in 1960.
True. When back then you had a kid, they slept in drawers, like a chest of drawers. You just pushed them in. There's no babysitting. There's no seatbelts.
I don't think that was it. I think that it was you didn't have a second living room or a media room or a home office or a playroom. I don't necessarily think that it was like because kids slept in closets or under the stairs like Harry Potter.
Dame, why is Kristen so anti-realtor? Because here's what I know. That's probably true.
I mean, she's angling to save a bunch of money.
Continue. What's the savings rate? I think this is always indicative of like things are going so well. I don't even need all this money. I want to keep it for later.
Over 10% during the World War II boom. There was saving. Income was being saved. There was disposable income. Housing was affordable. Cost of college education was $10,000, which still seems like maybe a lot compared to the median household income, but it was just a lot of equality in the household situations for a lot of families.
And then healthcare was dirt cheap, $600 a year, adjusted, and then 4 to 6% interest rates during that time frame. So that stoked economic activity. Like, again, we're talking about a 28-year time frame, so we are conveniently condensing this, but that's pretty good.
Yeah, but what was the median life expectancy then?
I had that information. I don't know where it went.
Because like when we looked at the Great Depression of like limited access and minimal cost for healthcare, it's like, well, yeah, because when you got the flu, you didn't go to the doctor. Like, you might not have made it.
Not to get too cynical here. On some of these elements, where has the ship permanently sailed?
Healthcare.
College costs and housing.
Okay. So the 3 elements we measured.
Yeah.
Okay. So is it possible to ever return to this type of prosperity? And again, take it at face value. Is it possible, given what we know about these three things.
Okay, let's one by one. College costs. Do we think that college costs will come back to a lower percentage of household income?
Kristen, you can go first. I have a very hot take, but go ahead.
I don't know that it will, just because of the way funding for college education has been set up and prioritized for us as a nation. But that doesn't mean that as individuals, we can't make more, I don't want to say intelligent because that sounds too loaded, but we can't be more intentional about the choices we make when it comes to college costs.
Peter.
I think of the three categories, that one has the best chance of actually resetting.
Totally.
For several reasons. One of the great reasons is what Kristen just said. People are more discriminate about their decision making.
Yeah, but between that and then there's going to be some increased competition for students from different colleges as we start to hit an enrollment cliff. I really think there's going to be a little bit of a pullback, hopefully. And who knows what funding opportunities are going to be available for college costs in the next decade or so.
Let's hit the other two quick, and then we're just going to skip to where we are today because we are talking so much. Dame, so what are the other two? So other two things, could they come down? Housing? No way.
There are ways to do it. It takes a very concerted effort to make that happen, though. I mean, Austin, Texas has seen a huge drop in the average rent because they've had a construction boom there. It's gone down like 22% since COVID for the average rent, which is huge.
Has to do zoning there too.
Yeah. So I think there are ways to do it. Of course, if we could limit the types of organizations that are buying housing in America, that might help as well. But I think there are ways to try and get housing costs brought back down, but I don't know if there's the political appetite to do that.
Healthcare.
I don't see it.
I don't either. Okay, so we're moving on. Where are we today? GDP growth rate, 2023 average 2.5%. Not awful, not great, right? I mean, you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Fine. Unemployment rate, about 3.7%. That's pretty good.
It's really good.
Yeah.
That's really good. Average median household income, $77,900. It's showing, again, the current period being the 2020s. In relation to some other elements we're going to talk about, it's not great, but it's also not awful, right? It's okay. That's a tough one to talk about. Anybody see it differently?
I think it's reasonable. I mean, so that's really tough because I think it would normally be reasonable, but based on some of the things that we've discussed in their costs, it seems like it's unreasonable and that we're being forced to make some decisions that we might not have felt like we were being backed into a corner on before.
Inflation rate, it's a reasonable spot right now. It's 3.2-ish%. Look, this is my opinion. It is also arguably poised to go in a very bad direction if some things don't fall into place, right? But again, that's probably always true. Housing, nightmare. It's a nightmare.
Next.
Stock market, there's some recent volatility, so it's sort of, it's been prosperous. We've been on a big bull market run. Savings rate in 2023 is 7%. I almost don't believe that statistic, if I'm being honest with you, but that's pretty good.
Feels like an average, not a median.
Income inequality is as high as it's ever been, so that's bad. Corporate profits are high, wages are struggling. Then you get into cost of healthcare, $7,500 a year, as high as it's ever been. Interest rates at 7 to 8% right now. That's not great. It's not great. Not terrible, but not great. And then you get the cost of college education at $40,000. So with 40 seconds left, you each get 20. Kristen, are we living in good economic times or are we living bad and you can't be in the middle? Where are we?
Well, if you make me pick, I guess it's bad.
Okay, Dame?
I will say that it is good, but could very easily tip to bad.
I'm in the middle. Here's the interesting part. We have all been tricked into choosing to blame presidencies and for these things. And you can do it if you want. I'm not saying you're dumb if you don't. But I think it's deeper than that. I think it's more about housing and education and healthcare. As with that, we take a break. I'm Pete the Planner. Blowing through commercials. Less Johnny Cougar for the people. Are there any jokes we haven't explained to the new audience?
I think we're doing good.
Okay. You guys, I know I wrote that set. I did today's show. Look at me actually doing something for once ever. We clearly had way too much material. Which is weird. For me to be over prepared is the strangest thing ever said. However, interesting.
I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
I was really nervous coming into today's show.
Is it because of your 75 hard you've been doing?
No, it's because I wasn't sure how we were going to turn that into a show.
Kristen, you've been working with me for so long.
Right.
I got it. Dame, what do you think?
Same. I was really, really nervous because, I mean, you may say you've got it, but last week's show wasn't my favorite.
Last week's show, was it?
Yeah, just basically giving an economics lecture on the
Yeah, I think we were kind
how
of
to pick stocks.
Oh, yeah, well, who knows? Highest listenership we've ever had, but whatever, you know. Danza thinks my fashion camo Friday. She thinks my glasses look camo. Did one of you say that?
No. She's saying an inside joke.
Yeah.
These are the jokes. Yes. Occasionally I'll wear camouflage, new listeners, as a fashion choice. I have not served our country. And so that does introduce the concept of stolen valor, which is unintentional. Let me tell you, when you wear fashion camo on Veterans Day and you're on a flight and there are real soldiers in the same gate area, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Especially if there's some like name brand on the camo.
Oh, you fight for Versace, I see.
Yeah, yes. I fight for Coach. And I don't mean in the back of the plane. Other jokes. Miguel was a period of time in my life in which I was drinking cold brew coffee and I would drink one and my heart would explode, but it made for good content.
Yeah,
true.
I've moved
unless you drank your Miguel too early, because then you would like fall off your caffeine buzz.
Ian or Jan says, I liked that last episode. Very informative. Thank you for the feedback. I'll say this though, you guys, I'm in charge of clipping it up, media, social media, clip it up. Ian really good clips last week.
Yeah. Ian making a hard push for listener of the year early in 2025. Clearly.
Thank you, Ian. Oh, Jameson likes it too. And his entire brow is filled with white hair.
Speaking of listener of the year, you said you were going to have that prepared for this week?
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, Ian Champ. The champ. No, Ian, I'm kidding. Maybe next year. Okay. Aww. That's all right. No offense. The soccer family group chat is blowing up over here.
Don't they know your routine?
Pay attention to us.
I know.
Your audience.
He has been doing a better job of looking at us when we talk.
Here's why.
The exposure therapy was good for you.
Here's why, guys. Because when I clip up the show and put out video clips, you guys are talking. And I'm like searching for Godot. It's so, yeah, I'm had to like lock it in.
I appreciate it. I feel like you actually might be listening to me sometimes.
I am, but I'll tell you guys, I love listening to you. I get more pleasure out of listening to you by doing this.
I just always assume if there's a clip of just me and Kristen on the screen, it means you are looking away.
Yeah, I could do that. It takes longer to edit, so I don't want to do it. Okay. Oh, let's do the show. Oh, I'm going to have to do a thing here.
This week's biggest waste of money of the week brought to you by.
Oh, yeah, we'll get there. I don't know what Tuesday's story time with Pete will be, but maybe it'll be youth travel sports after my last few weekends. Oh, yeah. The Big Rick Swink just asked, do the noobs know about the travel sports theme? The youth travel
they're learning quick.
We're getting there. All right. In 3, 2, 1. This week's biggest waste of money of the week right here on the Pete the Planner Show is Protector, personal security. Whatever the reason you might need security detail, finding good help can be tough. The new Protector app makes it as easy as getting an Uber. Available now in New York and Los Angeles. It connects users to trained security professionals, all either an active or veteran law enforcement, military, or special forces expert, bringing frontline expertise directly to users. Black car transportation is included with each booking, and users can even select their Protector's uniform to suit the occasion. All right, friends. How much an hour do you believe this costs?
It's one person who drives you.
One person is so this hourly rate is for a person.
Okay. This is $300 an hour.
All right. Dame?
200.
I'm going to take, what do you say?
200.
I'm going to take that. It is a 5-hour minimum, just so you know. It's a 5-hour minimum. Does that change either of your answers?
Then maybe I'm a little high. Maybe more like 250.
Dame?
200.
$200.
Man.
Here's what's weird about this. And I said before the show, Dame, you would never need this because you are adept at Krav Maga. Correct?
Amongst other things, yeah.
Amongst other things. Yeah. Some accessories and whatnot. Kristen, you can handle yourself, and your special friend is a man. Right?
I mean, yes.
Okay. I can't handle myself in these situations. I'm a tickle fighter. Everyone knows this. But I would never, I'm okay with that. I don't need someone protecting me.
Until you do.
No, see, this is what we always do, Dame. Every time we talk about Krav Maga, and I'm like, Dave knows Krav Maga. And Dame's like, well, I care about protecting my family. And I'm like, from who? No one's bothered your family. He's like, it's because I know Krav Maga. Like, that's not it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can send you some clippings and videos on YouTube of people getting messed with if you want.
No.
I'll pass. I'm pretty fast for as thick as I am. So I'll run. And if they can't keep up after 40 yards, I'm
40-yard dash.
But can they catch your family?
They're all faster than me.
They're probably to the age where you might actually be the slowest.
If I'm being honest, my 15-year-old daughter is stronger than all of us. Dame, what's in the news this week?
You want to see me tie a news story into our topic today?
Yes.
F. Scott Fitzgerald may have had it right when he said the rich are different from you and me, at least when it comes to spending money. While others pull back and hoard cash in the face of stubborn inflation, the top 10% of U.S. earners, households that take in $250,000 or more annually, have been on a shopping spree, the Wall Street Journal reports. They're responsible for this percent of all spending in the United States, the highest it's been since Moody's began tracking it in 1989.
So the question is distilled, what percentage of the spending are the wealthy responsible for?
Yep, households of $250,000 or more, what percentage of spending do they account for in the United States?
I assume you assume like total spend versus number of transactions?
Yes.
Okay. Chris, fire away. What do you got?
I feel like it's like 40%.
Peter.
Look, I'm going 80-20 rule. I'm going to be honest. I'm going 80.
Ooh, wow.
That's aggressive.
49.7% of all spending. From September of 23 to September of 24, middle and lower class households lowered their spending, while the highest earners upped their spending by 12% per the Wall Street Journal. And the spending by the well-heeled, whose property and stock market investments have been doing well, outpaced inflation, while spending by the others didn't. That leaves the economy especially reliant on continued big spending by the type of people who don't mind putting that extra charge for oat milk on their black Amex.
You know, our household purchased pistachio milk this week.
Why?
I asked the same question, respectfully. I didn't try it. I saw it in the fridge, and I, with kid gloves, asked some questions around it. It wasn't the person's favorite, and they're not going to buy it again. So,
how big is the container of pistachio milk?
Small, I bet.
like an entire country's worth of pistachios had to been used to generate this nut dairy. Anyway, Dame, what else is in the news?
I really like some of the writing in this story. I didn't do it, but let's just enjoy. Prepare a 21 air horn salute. It's Party City's final week in business. For nearly 40 years, the New Jersey-based party supply store ruled the balloon bouquet industry and wooed shoppers with its giant Halloween costume wall. Party City filed bankruptcy for the second time in December. Its first bankruptcy restructuring in 2023 managed to erase $1 billion worth of debt. Oh. But the company couldn't escape the $800 million it was still saddled with. The company had about 800 locations as of 2021 and employed around 16,500 full and part-time workers. Amid the task of putting down all the piñatas back in the back alley, Party City has scrambled to find someone to take over its leases. Budget retailers like Dollar Tree and Five Below scooped a lot of them up. And Party City will live on in a sense as some franchisees have opted to keep about 29 locations open. But it could be the worst year for fluorescently lit U.S. retailers. R.I.P. Joanne, with a expected 15,000 closures, according to CoreSite research.
I know people like the binary of like, they're good or they're bad. And I usually don't like to play into that. But dang, that's a pretty poorly run business if that's the result post first bankruptcy, right?
Yeah, it didn't take them any time to say, you know what? Yeah, we can't do it. Sorry.
Kristen, have you ever been to a Party City?
Yes, I have.
Dame?
I'm sure I have.
I think I have too. Like getting balloons for like a kid's birthday party, like a Paw Patrol themed paper plates.
How can they? I feel like people are more aggressive about party planning than they've ever been with like themes, and there's a party for everything and we celebrate everything. I just have a hard time believing you couldn't have made that work. But
can I interest you in some discount shares of Party City? Think about all those balloons that people have. They turn an age and you buy the big gold balloons and you're like, I'm 47 or 74 because it's windy. That's a good joke. Dane, what else is in the news?
Grassroots groups are urging a, quote, economic blackout today. Some Americans are planning a 24-hour boycott of major U.S. retailers today to protest high prices and what they call corporate greed. No Amazon, no Walmart, no Best Buy, reads a notice on the website of the People's Union USA, the grassroots movement behind the blackout. The one-day boycotts may not hurt the company's bottom lines, but they come as consumer sentiment has plummeted due to persistent inflation and threats of tariffs. The group is planning more targeted boycotts in the coming weeks. Pete, this will accomplish nothing.
Here's my challenge. First, as disclosure, a friend texted me earlier today to tell me about this. I'm like, hey, be sure to participate. I didn't text them back. I maybe give them a thumbs up. I choose not to judge how people protest.
Sure.
I just don't. I feel it's on the nose. That's the whole point of a protest, is to do something in a different way. I don't see the impact being large. But if that's important to them, great for exercising that. Do you think there'll be an impact?
I mean, not if they're going to turn around and buy the same stuff they were going to buy in a week. If you want to protest and impact somebody's business model, you just don't shop there.
Yeah, Kristen, do you just put something in your Amazon cart today and don't buy it, and then tomorrow you add the other items and buy the whole thing?
Buy it on March 1st. I don't know. I think the original call was to only use cash as well.
I saw that. I'm like, oh great. ATM withdrawal fees. Okay. This has been a show. The greatest economic period in American history was 1945 to 1973, according to our research. The worst period, obviously, the Great Depression. Where are we today? Somewhere in between. Some of us think it's good, some of us think it's bad, and some of us are sending you good vibes because good vibes are all that's in the budget. I'm Pete the Planner. This is the Pete the Planner Show. You're shaking your head, Dame, but that was damn good.
I was all right.
All
right.
Okay.
Keep going.
I held my tongue during news because it felt like maybe I don't want to say this on the radio.
Uh-oh.
Is it just me? Or when you hear the name F. Scott Fitzgerald, are you just thinking like me that someone's just mad at a guy named Scott Fitzgerald?
No. That is not.
Are you kidding me?
No.
I never did, but now I will.
Every time I hear it, I'm like, God, they don't like Scott Fitzgerald.
I've never thought that.
What did Scotty do?
Yeah, geez, take it easy, Scott. F. Scott Fitzgerald. What? He's a good writer. Great Gatsby's not so great. Good place to end. Oh, man. You know what? I'll ask the mayor this weekend if he likes that joke. I'll loosen him up before I ask for information.
Oh, my.
Oh, Lord. Okay. Well, that's all we got.
Send him a pre-release version of the cut of the show, so you feel like he's getting some insight, and then maybe he'll reciprocate.
Fair. Good luck with your lives. And everybody else, stay getting money.